Hello guys, and welcome to today's brand new video where today I'm going to be discussing a Ninjago theory. Sorry, I got my tongue tied a bit there. Now, this is of course just a theory, and you can agree or disagree whatever you want, but please do not hate on it. It's just a theory, but I want you guys to hear me out first before you fully decide. Now, obviously here we have Kid Lloyd. Lloyd isn't the main focus here, but I'd like to bring in a few details. Now, obviously we know Kid Lloyd. He's a kid, obviously. He's about, I don't know, 10 years old, I'd say. We know that. I'd say roughly, give or take, I'd say he's about a 10-year-old in season 1 to season 2. Well, until obviously, when he becomes older in Child's Play. And obviously, in Child's Play, we don't care about Mother Doomsday here a sec. We know Lloyd obviously becomes older, and he obviously gets taller, and becomes the same height as the rest of the ninja. And I'd say he's about 14, maybe 15 here, around that age range, once he becomes older with the Tomorrow's Tea. I don't think he's missed out too many years. Like I said, I did think he was about a 10-year-old here, so it's about 4 or 5 years, give or take. Now, we know that, but let me just hear me out. Let me just bring your attention to Nelson here. Now, Nelson obviously didn't have the Tomorrow's Tea, and obviously he has the small legs. Well, it's hard to tell because he's in the wheelchair. But we know Nelson looks to be about 9, 10, around the same age as Lloyd was. Obviously, he didn't have the Tomorrow's Tea, so he is a lot younger. And obviously, this is where we first see him in season 6. And obviously, when we next see Nelson, it's obviously season 11? Yes, I remember right. And obviously, he looks a bit taller, but he doesn't seem to be that tall. And I was wondering, how old is he now? I'd say 11, 12, maybe pushing 13 a bit. But he doesn't seem to be as tall yet. Now, I did have a look at Crystallized as well, and he does seem to have what looks like the full-size legs. Now, obviously, it is hard to tell because it's the show, However, I did get this screenshot from Crystallized where he's with Kai, and you can see he is a lot smaller. Now, obviously, Kai has his big hair and Nelson has his hat, but Lego heads cut off like what? Just about up here somewhere? And Kai's cuts off just around here, without including the stud thing they have on their heads where they put their headpieces on. So Kai is taller than Nelson, which means, I'd say Kai is about 16, 17, maybe pushing 18 here. I'm not really too sure. Well, Nelson is like an early teenager, I'd say. So we know Nelson clearly has the middle legs, because there's 3 kinds. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We know Nelson would be about the same age Lloyd technically is, if he didn't have the Tomorrow's Tea. And obviously, with this screenshot, Nelson is definitely smaller than Kai. But this is where it gets very interesting, because Harumi didn't have the Tomorrow's Tea either. But in this following scene, when we first see her, she clearly has the bigger legs. She's about the same size as the ninja. And we see her in season 8, when we see Nelson is obviously season 11, so there's a big gap between them both, but neither of them had Tomorrow's Tea. However, somehow she's taller, and with this this screenshot here, you can see that Nelson seems to be on the smaller side compared to Kai. And it is debatable in this image here, but you have to look closely at the seams. And so somehow Harumi seems to be having the taller legs and being about the same size as the ninja. But how does that work? How can she go from small to tall, being about the same age as Lloyd? Because if you remember, in this scene is where the Devourer, I forgot its name for a sec. Devourer attacks, her parents die, we know that. And then obviously, then she goes up to being in the royal family. But how does she just jump in leg sizes? Now, obviously, she'd be about the same age as Lloyd and Nelson. Like I said, Nelson's a bit younger than Lloyd, or around the same age. And Harumi, I could imagine her being maybe 9 here. I can feel her being about a year younger than Lloyd was in season 1. So how is it she's magically the same height as the ninja in season 8, while Nelson is smaller than Kai and crystallized when he didn't have tomorrow's tea? What if I tell you my theory is Harumi actually had the tomorrow's tea as well? Because we know Harumi is a Lloyd fan. She's playing with Lloyd and Kai here, which is quite interesting since Lloyd is only just a kid, like herself, in this scene, since the Devourer is before Lloyd becomes older. Because Garmadon uses the 4 golden weapons to defeat the Devourer, and then turns them into the golden weapons. So we obviously know Lloyd is just a kid, so he has an action figure at about 10 years old, which is quite impressive, but maybe it's because he's the Green Ninja. And I'm not surprised that Kai has one and the other 4 ninja, because they're the main ones. Now, I can imagine Harumi is a big fan of Lloyd, since he's about a year older than her, give or take, and she probably looks up to him, which is why she's such a big fan. But how does she get the Tomorrow's Tea to be older? Now, here's my crazy theory. Oh, sorry. So obviously we know these are the 3 leg sizes, small, medium, and large. Now, obviously you can see that she looks like she has them big legs, while Nelson seems to be on these ones. And we can just go back to double check. Yep, she seems to be on the middle legs, roughly. Now, what if I told you she was actually in Child's Play? This is just a theory again. Now, obviously, I don't think she'd be in the group here. Now, I did have a look at the group. None of them seem like they're giving off Harumi vibes. Now, there was one with the same hairstyle, but it was really dark brown. So, unless she had a wig change, I don't know. But it was the same hair from when she has it down. So not this plait, but not this one. It's the one where she has it down to look like Lady Gaga. But anyways, my theory is obviously we have the ninja suits here. Now, obviously, Ninjago fan, she'd want to go see these famous suits that are signed of each of the 4 ninja, because obviously Lloyd is about 10. He doesn't have a good signature yet, and even by chance she's a Fritz Jonagon fan. What if I told you there's a possibility she could be somewhere, maybe buried under all the rubble behind the grundle? Maybe somewhere down here, behind the grundle somewhere, anywhere. The ninja are unaware, so when Lloyd uses the Tomorrow Tea, both him and Harumi become older. Because it does seem crazy that all 3 of them seem to be, different sizes. You can clearly see she's got them bigger legs, like here, and over here, Nelson seems to be a lot smaller. However, he didn't have Tomorrow's Tea, and neither does Harumi as far as we're aware. But what if she actually did? What if Harumi actually had the Tomorrow's Tea as well? Because we know Lloyd is about the same height as the rest of the ninja in this scene, when he used to be a lot smaller. So is it a possibility that Nelson didn't have Tomorrow's Tea? He's about the same age as Harumi and Lloyd, but Harumi had the tea as well, making her a lot taller than what she technically could be. And we know that these are the 3 size pieces. Obviously, Lloyd and Nelson had these 2 pieces when they first met. Nelson goes on to having these pieces, and suddenly Harumi has these ones? Did she just miss the little legs? Maybe this is a minor mistake that, Ninjago just went right over. Or maybe it's a clue that she's actually hidden in the background somewhere in Child's Play. Now, I didn't watch the full episode. I was watching this specific scene in Doomsday Comics in slow-mo, and I wasn't able to find anything, but we know that Harumi has been in the background of scenes before. Not really seen physically, but she's been there. Now, that was a big reveal, of course, in Crystallized. Being there in Master of the Mountain, being the secret buyer of Vengestone? Yes, Vengestone. And obviously, she's been hiding since season 8, growing the army, and then eventually gathering all the big dudes, like a Sphere and Pythor, to attack Ninjago. So what if she's been in the background longer than we think? Because we know she's been wrong way. In the background here, we didn't actually see her in the episode when the Great Devourer attacked, but we do find later down the line that she was actually there. So what if she's actually hidden in plain sight yet again in this exact episode? Maybe somewhere trapped underneath, somewhere where the ninja didn't know she was there. Because it's clear there's not many people in the group, and even later down the line there's still not many people, but she could have been looking at a whole different section. And I was looking at even the posters on the walls, and it seems like this one seems like some like anime girl perhaps, so maybe she's looking at a different category, a different section. She could be somewhere else within the store and we don't really notice her. Now I can imagine obviously this is after her parents had died, so maybe she is hiding here, escaped from the palace. I'm not really too sure. But this is all just a crazy theory. But what do you guys think? Do you think she's hiding here somewhere? Because we know Harumi has been in the background without actually physically being seen before. What if she was actually in that scene as well? You guys can let me know all your thoughts and opinions below, but is Harumi really as old as we think we are? Or do you think she is? Or actually, is she on tomorrow's tea like Lloyd? Because it seems as if she missed the middle legs. Or she's just really tall. I mean, tall Jings exist, but in the Lego world, they do tend to use all three legs. And poor Nelson. Nelson's smaller than Kai still, so how is he smaller than Kai? But Harumi is about the same size as the ninja. It is a lot to think about. Let me know all your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!